Hello, my name is Louise Crowley and I'm a lecturer in the School of Law at UCC, and I research and teach in the area of family law. We teach family law at undergraduate and postgraduate level, and given the expertise in the area in the school, we have a specialised Masters in Children's Rights and Family Law, which is one of a kind in Ireland. Family law in Ireland has witnessed phenomenal change in the last 20 years, and it makes it an incredibly interesting area of study for our students. When we think back to the original drafting of the Constitution in 1937, the only family that was envisaged and indeed protected by the Constitution is the family based on marriage. But as we know from the evolving society in which we live, Ireland is made up from very many forms of families. So when we discuss this with our students, we can rely upon current data, such as the census of 2016, which highlights the very many different families that exist in Ireland. We have the traditional married family with and without children, but we have significantly growing numbers of families who are cohabitants, who are living in same-sex relationships, married or unmarried, and who are choosing to be single mothers or single fathers. And indeed, we have families who have gone through the legal process and their families have been separated or divorced by law. And so it is very important that our laws evolve to give status to these families and recognise their contribution to society as a collective unit, and also that they have rights against each other and the state. And it is good that in the last 20 years that we have created laws to protect the very broad range of families that exist in Ireland. And so teaching family law at both undergraduate and family law and postgraduate levels gives rise to very interesting conversations in the classroom with interesting contributions from students and debates about the sufficiency of our laws, and generally criticisms about the hierarchies that still exist, giving rise to different laws for different types of families. Of course, a part of this is the way in which Irish law has evolved to recognise the fact of breakdown. And in family law lectures, we discuss at length the different ways to address the unfortunate reality of family breakdown. And again, we get to track and trace the development of law over the years as Ireland slowly recognised the need to create a legal framework to protect all individuals in a family that is going through a breakdown. And so we discuss how to achieve a nullity if a marriage is recognised as never having validly taken place, and then looking at the way in which the laws have developed to allow for a judicial separation, and more recently following a referendum of the people to change the constitution, allowing for parties to divorce and end the marital union. Other areas of significance include domestic violence, which is an endemic, terrible poison in our society that requires the law to intervene, demands that the state get involved in a private relationship and make orders to protect vulnerable parties and to remove perpetrators of violence and abuse from the relationship. Again, in family law lectures, we have a very interesting analysis of the way in which the law began in a very conservative way, only protecting spouses involved in such abusive relationships, but in more recent years has evolved to recognise the need for the state to protect parties who perhaps are cohabiting with another person, and different questions arise in relation to where people do not have a claim on the ownership of the property but need to be protected nonetheless. And this is a very interesting area where we see international treaties influencing our own laws in Ireland. Just recently, we had the Domestic Violence Act of 2018, which has changed Irish law significantly. For example, it now allows somebody who is living with another person but does haven't any ownership in the property to have an abusive partner, even if they are the property owner, removed from the house. And it's a very good example that even if it's just for 8 days, that the state finally recognises that it must do more than simply protect the property owner, but actually must prioritise the needs of the vulnerable party despite the lack of property ownership. And so right through family law in our studies in the law school in UCC, it is interesting to track change in social policy and consider and analyse the adequacy of the way in which the law has responded to protect the different parties involved in order to ensure that vulnerable people are protected and that people are not left without money or without support where a relationship breaks down. but to do so through the lens of a changing society and changing needs, and recognising the importance of equal treatment and the recognition of diversity amongst individual choices and family choices. And so if you come to UCC and study family law, you will be exposed to all of these issues. And it's always intriguing to see students who arrive in the first lecture who may never have studied family law, but suddenly realise they have knowledge in the area and definitely have opinions about how the best way to regulate and create laws to protect citizens. And so I encourage you to consider studying with us here at UCC, and hopefully I will see you someday soon in a family law lecture room.